Today I'm going to teach you how to grow sweet potatoes when you have limited space. We're going to be using grow bags. And grow bags are a really fantastic way to grow a lot of food when you have limited space, or if you have pretty poor soil like I do. There's a ton of rocks and stones and just a lot of dry clay in the soil where I live. So the grow bags are really, really nice when you want to grow root crops such as potatoes. Using grow bags will allow your root crops to form properly and to get a nice full size because they won't be hitting all the rocks and the stones in your soil if you have that issue. And it makes harvest super simple because you know all the potatoes are going to be right there contained in the bag, and they're so easy to just pull out of there when the time comes. So first things first, you got to fill your grow bags. Here are some different soils that work really well for it. If you use a large grow bag, which I do recommend for sweet potatoes, you want to give them plenty of room to grow and to spread out. You can use a cheap soil, such as just like a plain old topsoil at the very bottom of the bag, and then put your compost and your richer soils towards the middle and the top. Sweet potatoes are pretty heavy feeders. You want to make sure that you mix some fertilizer into the grow bags. Bone meal is a really good one to add. It's a slow release source of phosphorus, which helps with root development. But sweet potatoes do need a little bit of nitrogen too, so I recommend doing a 5-10-10 or a 10-20-20 fertilizer. You want just a little bit of nitrogen, which is the first number on the fertilizer bags, because nitrogen helps with growth, and you want a little bit of that to help the vines take off. But phosphorus and potassium are going to be the more important macronutrients when it comes to your potatoes. If you give them something that's too rich in nitrogen and not rich enough in the other two, you're going to get really, really long, bushy, crazy vines, but you're not really going to get a good yield of the actual potatoes themselves. So make sure you're mindful of that. So along with a 5-10-10, I mixed in some bone meal. In that little clip I just showed you, the black cow compost is a really nice compost to use. But if you have chickens like I do, their manure actually makes a really, really good garden compost. I like to keep cardboard boxes underneath where my chickens roost at night. That way cleanup is super easy. And since their droppings just fall right into the cardboard box, I can easily pull that out and dump them into my grow bags or into the garden as needed. Over the winter, I had also filled this with some eggshells, banana peels, composted that in here. The eggshells obviously provide a good source of calcium, and calcium is extremely beneficial to plants. You want to make sure everything's mixed in here nice and even. So now we're just going to get right into it. If you saw my other videos, you know that I grow my regular potatoes in grow bags as well. And regular potatoes like Eva's, Kennebec is a popular one. I don't grow that one. I prefer the Eva's. But all those types, the reds, the blues, they all like cooler temperatures when you plant them. So I planted those earlier in the spring, and you can see they're already blossoming. They're doing really, really well in these grow bags, and they're staying nice and contained. If you want to learn how to grow those, make sure you check out my channel. You can find the video there. But sweet potatoes, on the other hand, like it warm and humid. And a lot of people seem to not know that I manage a little farm store right in town, and a lot of customers call early in the spring, and they're so shocked and confused as to why we don't have sweet potato slips yet. But don't get them confused with other potatoes. Sweet potatoes need it warm. So if you get your slips in the water, you can also get sweet potatoes that are already rooted in soil. But this year, this is how they came to us at the store. You want to change the water if you're not planting them right away. Change the water at least 1 to 2 times a day. Make sure that the container they're in stays clean. The water that you fill it up with, make sure it's nice and cool. And I even added a little bit of sugar in here to help keep them strong. Now, I should have planted these a little bit sooner. They don't look the best. But I've had an insanely busy week. And I had a lot of other projects going on with the animals, which was priority to me. So I wanted to take care of that first. So now I'm finally going to get to these. They should still be fine. I'm going to really soak those grow bags in water before I plant them. And I'm going to keep them really moist the first several days to help these guys adjust. After your plants have adjusted in there, you do want to keep your grow bags well watered, because since they're out of the ground, they do dry out faster than if you planted something directly in the ground itself. But you don't want it just soaking wet 24/7, because once the potatoes start to form, you don't want them to rot. So keep it well watered enough that the vines are going to stay strong and healthy and be able to absorb the nutrients in the soil, but don't have it just a marshy, gross mess either. This video is going to be quick, simple, and to the point, and hopefully you find this helpful. My grow bags are fabric, and I've never had an issue with them draining, but some people use plastic pots. Now, if you're using plastic, make sure it's food safe. And if it is plastic, you want to make sure it has drainage holes. And then I have my grow bags on top of the pea gravel, because that also helps with drainage. That way, when the water leaks through to the bottom, it can just easily flow away instead of just sitting there in a gross puddle. You want to plant these about 10 to 12 inches apart. And depending on the variety, give or take, but usually you'll have sweet potatoes in about 90 to 120 days after planting. And here's a little tip. Since sweet potatoes like light, fluffy, loamy soil, I like to add all-purpose sand into the soil. That way it's really easy for the potatoes to grow and form and get a good proper size. You want the soil to be as soft and as well draining as possible so that there's no issues with the growth. And when the time comes to harvest, this is a really easy way to do it. Just get yourself a nice potato fork, stick it in the bag, lift it up, and you'll get a bunch of tubers on there. And it's nice because the soil will just fall in between the cracks, so you don't gotta worry about that.